main role of a CPA is to try and develop and ensure people are aware of best practice in compulsory purchase. It's a complex area of work, and there are lots of people who are involved in compulsory purchase. Not everybody's involved in it day to day, but our role is really to make sure that people are aware of best practice, and we also work closely with government to make sure that the reform agenda is being taken forward, and where there are problems with compulsory purchase legislation or compensation legislation, we try and work with government to address those sorts of issues.
Picking up on where Vicky, who gave the talk previous to me, picked off, she was talking about some of the successes that the CPA has had over the years in terms of promotion of legislative reform in the compulsory purchase context. What I was looking at was, well, where are we going over the next few years, the next 5 years? And in that context, I talked about the current context in which we find ourselves, which is one where there has already been quite a lot of legislative reform and where there's limited appetite for more substantial reform. And but so against that background, how do we still keep moving things forward? And what we talked about in particular was focusing on those areas where there remains a real need for reform, and also looking to some extent for easy wins, things that can be done to improve the existing system within the scope of the existing system without further change.
So I've spoken today about Section 17 certificates, giving some of the legislative background, then moving on to give some practical case studies around how they're playing out in practice, and then to go on to give some considerations and recommendations if you're considering taking one forward, either as a landowner developer or indeed as an acquiring authority. Well, if you haven't been here today, there was 300 people all involved with CPO cases. If you're involved in promoting CPOs, then there's definitely something you can learn. If you are someone that's affected by a CPO, then there's definitely people that you could be speaking to who might be able to assist you with any compensation claim or case that you're currently dealing with.
Well, we've got 15 different speakers here today. So we've heard from Martin Roger QC on accessibility to the upper tribunal. We've got a couple of case studies, one on Leicester Waterside, one on High Speed 2 as well. You get to hear about best practice and how different projects have come forward, how different local authorities and people like High Speed 2, Network Rail, Highways England, how they're using compulsory purchase powers, what's happening in terms of compensation claims. We're talking later about the use of Section 17 certificates. There's an awful lot of relevant information that's being talked about today. You've got 300 people in the room, so you've got the refreshment breaks as we have now, you've got a lunch break later and a drinks event later on today as well. So you can talk to a lot of your peers across the industry as well and pick up what they're doing, what's happening in the world of compulsory purchase, in the world of development, and it's a really, really good learning experience and networking experience.
Today there are a record number of people attending this conference, and the issues that are being debated are becoming ever more pertinent, I think, to the whole reaction to the use of these powers and the assessment of compensation in modern society. I think there's well in excess of 300 here today, and that indicates the high esteem which this annual conference is held, and the quality of the speakers that are attracted to this conference. So it is a must in the diary of people who are involved in this activity.